Most people think they know everything about the '57 Chevy Bel Air. You've seen them at car shows, watched them cruise down Main Street, maybe even had one in your family back in the day. But what you didn't know is that this American icon is hiding secrets that would shock even the most die-hard Chevy fans. In the next few minutes, you'll discover 20 shocking facts about the '57 Bel Air that have been buried in history, including one that nearly got Chevy banned from racing forever. Chevy's Fuelie engine hit 1 horsepower per cubic inch. Get this, Chevrolet achieved something in 1957 that was considered impossible at the time. Their Rochester fuel-injected 283 cubic inch V8 engine produced exactly 283 horsepower. That's right, 1 horsepower for every single cubic inch of displacement. This wasn't in some stripped-down race car either. This was in a full-size Bel Air that your neighbor could drive to church on Sunday. The Fuelie option was so advanced that most mechanics didn't even know how to work on it. The system used a complex mechanical fuel injection setup that was more like something you'd find on a fighter jet than a family car. What made this even more remarkable was that Chevy beat everyone to this milestone. Not Ford, not Chrysler, not even the exotic European brands had managed this feat in a production car. The 283 Fuelie became a legend among hot rodders. But here's the kicker. It was so expensive that only about 1% of '57 Chevys were ordered with it. Today, finding an original Fuelie Bel Air is like striking gold. NASCAR banned Chevy's Black Widow. After it dominated, the story that Chevrolet doesn't want you to remember goes like this. They built a special version of the '57 called the Black Widow, painted in sinister black and white livery. These cars were so dominant on NASCAR tracks that they embarrassed the competition week after week. The Black Widows used that same fuel injection system we just talked about, but tuned for racing. They were practically unbeatable. Bill France, NASCAR's founder, saw what was happening and made a shocking decision. He banned fuel injection from NASCAR competition entirely. Not just Chevy's system, but all fuel injection. This ban lasted for decades, keeping fuel injection out of stock car racing until modern times. Chevy had built something too good, too advanced, and it got them kicked out of the game. The Black Widow became a ghost story, a car so fast it changed the rules of racing forever. Only a handful were built, and finding one today is nearly impossible. The ones that survive are worth more than most people's houses. No factory 4-speed transmissions. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Despite being one of the most popular performance cars of its era, you couldn't order a '57 Bel Air with a 4-speed manual transmission from the factory. That's right, Chevrolet's hottest car of 1957 came with either a 3-speed manual or one of 2 automatic options. But wait, it gets more interesting. Chevy did sell a 4-speed transmission over the counter through their parts department starting in late '57. Dealers would install these transmissions, but they never came from the factory that way. This created a whole underground network of dealers who specialized in 4-speed conversions. Some dealers became famous for their 4-speed installations, and cars converted by certain dealers are more valuable today than others. The crazy part? Many people today assume their 4-speed '57 is factory original, but unless it was converted before leaving the dealership, it's not. This little-known fact has caused countless arguments at car shows over the years. Turbo Glide's confusing shifter pattern. The Turbo Glide automatic transmission was Chevrolet's attempt at building something revolutionary, but it ended up confusing more drivers than it impressed. The shifter pattern read PRND-GAR, with that last position originally labeled HR in early production. Nobody knew what HR meant, so Chevy quickly changed it to GR for grade retard. Even with the new label, most owners had no idea what it did. The transmission itself was a marvel of engineering complexity that most mechanics couldn't figure out. It used a unique turbine and stator design that was supposed to provide infinitely variable gear ratios. In reality, it was smooth but sluggish, and when it broke, Good luck finding someone who could fix it. The Turboglide used a massive cast aluminum case that was the largest mass-produced aluminum casting of its time. Chevy was so proud of this transmission that they promoted it heavily, but customers voted with their wallets. Most chose the proven Powerglide instead. Today, finding a Turboglide-equipped 57 is rare, and finding someone who can rebuild one is even rarer. Gold anodized trim was Bel Air exclusive. You could spot a Bel Air V8 from a block away thanks to one special detail that Chevy reserved for their top-line model. All the grille trim, scripts, and V emblems were gold anodized on Bel Air V8s. The cheaper 210 and 150 models, even with V8 engines, got plain chrome trim. This wasn't just paint either. The anodizing process actually changed the molecular structure of the aluminum trim pieces, giving them that distinctive gold color that wouldn't fade or wear off. Chevy spent extra money on this process because they wanted Bel Air buyers to feel special. The gold trim became such a status symbol that aftermarket companies started selling gold-colored trim pieces for people who wanted to fake the Bel Air look. But real Chevy enthusiasts could always tell the difference. The factory anodizing had a specific shade and depth that the knockoffs couldn't match. Today, restorers pay premium prices for original gold anodized trim pieces because reproduction parts never look quite right. Many left with vacuum wipers. In an era when electric windshield wipers were becoming standard on most cars, Chevrolet still offered vacuum-operated wipers as standard equipment on the 57. These vacuum wipers were a throwback to the 30s and 40s, and they had one major flaw. They slowed down or stopped completely when you accelerated. Imagine driving in a rainstorm and losing your wipers every time you press the gas pedal. That's what 57 Chevy owners dealt with unless they paid extra for electric wipers. The vacuum system worked off engine vacuum, which dropped during acceleration. Chevy knew this was a problem, but kept vacuum wipers standard to save money. The electric wiper option cost about $15, which doesn't sound like much today, but was real money in 57. Many original owners learned about this quirk the hard way during their first rainstorm. Some dealers would upgrade cars to electric wipers after complaints, but Chevy never issued a recall or admitted there was a problem. Today, most surviving 57s have been converted to electric wipers, making original vacuum wiper cars oddly collectible. Air ducts, hidden in headlight pods. Those distinctive chrome eyebrows around the 57's headlights weren't just for looks. They hid functional air ducts that fed fresh air into the engine compartment. This was a clever piece of engineering that most people never noticed. The ducts helped cool the engine and provided a ram air effect at highway speeds. Chevy's engineers had moved the air intakes from the traditional grille location to these headlight pods to create a cleaner front-end design. The chrome surrounds directed air through hidden channels behind the headlights. This setup worked so well that hot rodders still use it today when building custom 57s. The design also helped reduce underhood temperatures, which was important for those fuel-injected engines that were sensitive to heat. What's really interesting is that Chevy never advertised this feature. It was just one of those engineering details that made the 57 special. Many restoration shops don't even know these ducts are functional and seal them up during rebuilds, not realizing they're reducing engine cooling. 14-inch wheels. Lowered the stance, Chevrolet made a bold decision for 1957 that went against industry trends. While most manufacturers were moving to 15-inch wheels for a smoother ride, Chevy dropped down to 14-inch wheels. This wasn't about saving money. It was a deliberate design choice to lower the car's stance and make it look wider and more aggressive. The smaller wheels dropped the Bel Air's height by about 1.5 inches, giving it that ground-hugging look that became iconic. The move also allowed Chevy to widen the wheel track slightly, making the car more stable in corners. But there was a downside. The smaller wheels meant smaller brakes, and 57 Chevys were notorious for brake fade during hard use. Tire selection was also limited compared to 15-inch wheels. Many hot rodders immediately swapped to 15-inch wheels for better brake and tire options. Ironically, this made their cars sit higher and lose some of that classic 57 stance. Today, restorers debate whether to keep the original 14s for authenticity or upgrade for better performance. No oil pressure gauge from factory. Here's something that seems impossible by today's standards. The 57 Bel Air, even in its most expensive configurations, didn't come with an oil pressure gauge or voltmeter from the factory. You got a speedometer, fuel gauge, temperature gauge, and that was pretty much it. Chevy figured their engines were reliable enough that drivers didn't need to monitor oil pressure. This was a costly assumption for many owners. By the time the oil pressure idiot light came on, it was often too late. Engine damage had already occurred. The aftermarket quickly responded with gauge packages, but these were dealer-installed options. Smart dealers would push these gauge packages hard, knowing they could prevent warranty claims. The lack of proper instrumentation was especially problematic for the high-performance fuel-injected engines, which needed careful monitoring. Many 57 owners learned about engine problems the hard way, with a sudden knock or seized engine being their first warning. Today, almost every restored 57 has aftermarket gauges, making original dashboard configurations increasingly rare. If you thought that was impressive, wait until you see what's coming up. A sales defeat that created an icon, aluminum trim that became a status symbol, and a design accident that changed automotive history forever. So let's continue. Ford outsold Chevy in 57. This fact still stings in Chevrolet circles. Ford actually outsold Chevy in 1957. Despite the Bel Air becoming the most iconic car of the 50s, Ford moved more metal that year. The numbers don't lie. Ford sold about 1,700,000 cars, while Chevy sold roughly 1,555,000. So how did the loser of the sales race become the winner of history? It comes down to design and desirability. Ford's 57 was handsome but conventional. Chevy's was revolutionary. Those tail fins, that Ferrari-inspired grille, the whole package just captured something special. Ford won the sales battle with conservative styling that appealed to mainstream buyers, but Chevy won the war by creating a design that would define an entire era. The 57 Ford is a nice car that collectors appreciate. The 57 Chevy is an American icon that everyone recognizes. Sometimes losing the sales race means winning the history books. Just ask any car collector which 57 they'd rather own. Ribbed aluminum fin inserts were Bel Air. Only the devil was in the details when it came to distinguishing a Bel Air from lesser Chevys. Those ribbed aluminum inserts inside the tail fin V were exclusive to the Bel Air model. The 210 and 150 models had the same basic fin shape, but without those distinctive inserts. This was another way Chevy justified the Bel Air's higher price. These inserts weren't just decorative trim pieces either. They were substantial aluminum panels with deep ribs that caught the light in a specific way. Chevy stylists spent months perfecting the angle and depth of each rib. The inserts were expensive to produce, requiring special dies and aluminum forming techniques. Many people today don't realize these inserts were model-specific. Reproduction parts suppliers often sell universal inserts that fit all 57 Chevys, but they're not correct for 210s or 150s. This has led to countless incorrectly restored cars at shows. Original Bel Air inserts are highly sought after by restorers because reproductions never quite match the original's precise ribbing pattern. The 57 was almost completely different. General Motors had big plans for 1957 that would have changed everything. They were developing an all-new car with unit body construction, air suspension, and radical styling. But development delays and cost overruns forced them to scrap the whole project. What we got instead was a heavy facelift of the 55-56 platform. This accident of history created the most beautiful Chevy ever built. The rushed redesign forced stylists to be creative with the existing body structure. They couldn't change the greenhouse or doors, so they focused on the front and rear styling. The result was those incredible fins and that Ferrari-inspired front end. If GM's original plan had worked out, we might never have gotten the 57 we know and love. The all-new design was reportedly more futuristic but less elegant. Sometimes the best designs come from working within constraints. The 57's timeless beauty came from designers making the most of what they had to work with. It's a reminder that limitations can spark creativity. Reinforced roof on four-door hardtops. The four-door hardtop was an engineering marvel that required special reinforcement to work properly. Without a B-pillar between the front and rear doors, the roof structure had to be significantly beefed up. Chevy engineers added extra bracing in the roof and reinforced the door frames to handle the stress. This made the four-door hardtop heavier than the sedan, but gave it that incredible pillarless look when all windows were down. The engineering challenge was keeping the doors aligned without a center post. Chevy used stronger hinges and special latches to maintain proper fit. The four-door hardtop became a status symbol because it cost more to build than a regular sedan. Buyers paid extra for that sleek silhouette and open-air feeling. The reinforced structure actually made these cars quieter on the highway than regular sedans. The extra bracing reduced body flex and wind noise. Today, four-door hardtops are highly collectible because they combine practicality with stunning looks. Many were converted to two doors over the years, making original four-door hardtops increasingly rare. Early V8s came in chartreuse. Have you ever wondered what's going on in the comment section when someone mentions chartreuse engine paint? Here's the inside story that even many Chevy experts don't know. Early 1957 production 265 V8s with manual transmissions were painted chartreuse, a weird yellow-green color. But here's the specific detail. This only applied to engines built before November 1956. After that date, all small block engines switched to Chevy orange. This creates endless confusion at car shows because people expect all 57 engines to be orange. The chartreuse engines are completely correct for early production cars, but many have been repainted orange by well-meaning restorers. The color change happened because Chevy was transitioning from the old color scheme used on 55 and 56 models. They used up their existing stock of chartreuse paint before switching to the new standard. Finding an original chartreuse engine today is like finding a unicorn. Most have been rebuilt and repainted over the years. Production numbers tell a shocking story. The production mathematics of the 57 Chevy line will blow your mind. Out of approximately 1,555,316 total Chevys built that year, only 6,264 were Bel Air Nomads. That's right. The most sought-after 57 body style represented less than 0.5% of production. But here's where it gets really interesting. Chevy built 48,068 Bel Air convertibles and 168,293 two-door hardtops. The convertible seems rare today, but it was actually pretty common in 57. The real story is how many have survived. Nomads were expensive wagons that families actually used. So many got used up. Convertibles lived harder lives than hardtops, exposed to weather and often hot-rodded. The production numbers versus survival rates explain today's values. A Nomad that sold for a few $100s more than a hardtop in 57 now commands 5 times the price. Sometimes rarity isn't about how many were built, but how many survived. The Nomad's combination of low production and high attrition created the perfect collector storm. Ramjet injection banned from some stock. Car Events Chevrolet created a problem they didn't expect with their fuel injection system. It was so effective that some stock car sanctioning bodies banned it from competition, even though it was a factory option anyone could buy. Chevy even published their own stock car competition guide that warned racers about these restrictions. Think about that for a second. Chevy built a street-legal performance option so good that racers couldn't use it. The ramjet fuel injection system gave such a huge advantage that it was considered unfair. This created a weird situation where the hottest factory, Chevy, couldn't compete in some events. Racers had to remove the fuel injection and install carburetors to be legal. Many racers kept two intake systems, swapping between them depending on the rules. The irony is that fuel injection was temperamental on the street, but perfect for racing. It delivered consistent fuel metering and better high RPM performance than carburetors. Chevy's engineers had accidentally created something too advanced for its time. The racing bands actually helped fuel injection's mystique, making it even more desirable to street performance enthusiasts. The Baby Cadillac nickname had real meaning. When people called the '57 Bel Air a baby Cadillac, they weren't just talking about its upscale appearance. There were actual Cadillac design influences throughout the car. The egg crate grille pattern was inspired by Cadillac's design language. Those tail fins were a scaled-down version of Cadillac's signature styling element. Even the Bel Air's trim placement followed Cadillac's design philosophy. This wasn't accidental. GM's design staff under Harley Earl deliberately gave each division's cars a hierarchy. Cadillac sat at the top, and design elements would trickle down to other divisions. The Bel Air represented the closest a Chevy buyer could get to Cadillac style without paying Cadillac prices. The interior followed the same pattern. Bel Air upholstery patterns and dashboard designs echoed Cadillac themes in more affordable materials. This baby Cadillac strategy worked perfectly. Buyers felt they were getting luxury car style at Chevrolet prices. It also created an upgrade path within GM. Today's Bel Air buyer might be tomorrow's Cadillac customer. The nickname that started as a comparison became a compliment to Chevrolet's success at democratizing luxury. Inca Silver was a one-year wonder among the 47 color combinations available in '57. One stands out as particularly special to collectors: Inca Silver. This metallic silver paint was available for just 1 year and has become a holy grail for restorers. What made Inca Silver special wasn't just its limited availability. The paint had a unique metallic flake pattern that gave it incredible depth in sunlight. Chevy's paint engineers had created something that looked different from every angle. The color was expensive to apply correctly, requiring multiple coats and special techniques. Many dealers discouraged customers from ordering it because touch-ups were difficult. This limited production made Inca Silver cars rare even when new. The paint formula was complex for its time, using aluminum flakes suspended in a special base. Getting the flake orientation correct required skilled painters. Today, matching original Inca Silver is one of the biggest challenges in restoration. Modern paint technology can recreate the color, but getting that exact original flake pattern is nearly impossible. Original Inca Silver cars command premium prices because of their rarity and the difficulty in repainting them correctly. Model mix reveals surprising preferences. The final production numbers for different Bel Air body styles reveal what buyers really wanted in '57. While everyone today seems to want a two-door hardtop or convertible, the four-door sedan was actually the volume seller. Chevy built more four-door sedans than any other body style because that's what families needed. But here's the surprise that changes everything. Despite the Nomad's current status as the ultimate '57, it was the slowest seller. At about 6,000 units, it sold fewer than any other Bel Air model. The two-door wagon actually outsold the Nomad significantly. Price was the main factor. The Nomad cost more than a convertible, which seemed crazy for a wagon. Buyers couldn't justify paying premium prices for what they saw as a utility vehicle. The convertible numbers are interesting too. At 48,000 units, it was popular but not overwhelming. The real volume was in two-door hardtops at over 160,000 units. Today's market has completely flipped these preferences. The practical four-door sedans are least valuable, while the impractical Nomad commands top dollar. Sometimes the market takes decades to recognize true specialness. And the surprise fact I promised you at the beginning's this: Chevrolet secretly tested a supercharged version of the 283 V8 in '57 that made over 350 horsepower. Only 3 prototypes were built, and Chevy executives killed the program because they feared it would overshadow the Corvette. These test cars were supposedly destroyed, but rumors persist that one survived and is hidden in a private collection somewhere in Michigan. The owner allegedly drives it once a year to keep it running, but has never shown it publicly. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. The most shocking secret of all about the '57 Bel Air: Chevy used real gold in the fuel injection system. The ramjet fuel injection system didn't just cost as much as gold, it actually contained gold. The fuel injection nozzles used gold-plated components because gold wouldn't corrode from gasoline exposure. This was space-age technology in a street car. Each fuel injection unit contained about $2 worth of gold at 1957 prices. That's equivalent to about $35 today. Chevy never advertised this fact because they didn't want people tearing apart the injection systems for scrap value. The gold plating was microscopically thin, but necessary for long-term reliability. Regular metals would corrode and clog the precise injection nozzles. This helps explain why the fuel injection option cost almost $500 extra, nearly 20% of the base car's price. You were literally buying precision components made with precious metals. The system was so complex that Chevy sent mechanics to special training schools just to learn basic maintenance. Many dealers refused to work on fuel-injected cars because they lacked trained technicians. Today, those gold-plated components are one-way experts authenticate original fuel injection systems. Reproductions use cheaper materials that don't have the same corrosion resistance. Finding an unmolested original ramjet system is like finding buried treasure, literally and figuratively. That's all for today, folks. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button so you don't miss the next one. See you there.